Bad luck protection for you evokers. Still trying to get your big glove. Good luck, right? Now, they actually did one nice thing. And one nice thing that I want to be careful not to over-extrapolate from. And that is the account-bound Time Rift currency boxes. Now, the thing about these that are shocking, truly, is there is no taxation.
I was honestly shocked. I think it was at one of the Discords and I was immediately just posting. Yeah, who wants to bet how bad the tax is? I'm saying 20%. And then I logged in and checked. It was like, there's no tax. But Blizzard? What have you done with Blizzard? What have you done with the old developers? Are they tied up in the basement somewhere? Like, what's going on? Has there been like an internal revolution? Like a mutiny? And just like all of the senior staff, 3 or the lead staff are all like hog-tied in the basement, while all the like juniors and like lower seniors and associates are like, yeah, let's go, let's do things cool.
That would imply that the libertarians at the company were able to agree with each other for long enough to coordinate.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Sorry. Yeah, no taxation. However, I think there is a bit of a reason for this. Now, if you're confused why I'm talking about tax, usually it would be if you wanted to send a currency to an alt, say the box of bind on account currency you'd buy, it would maybe cost 500 currency, but when you use it in your alt, you'd only get 400, right? So 100 would just disappear. Blizzard, for the longest time, had said that their intent with that is that to progress a character, they really feel that the most efficient thing to do should be to play that character. But for so many people, they are sitting there trying to get a currency on their alt because realistically they want to hop into some keys, maybe hop into raid, do the new mega dungeon or whatever, and they're just kind of thinking like, great, I have to grind these things, even though, and I'm sure to everybody that has a main with like 300 whelp crests and 500 drake crests, I have more drake crests than I know what to do with. Like, I literally cannot use them other than, as Matt loves to point out, sell them for 5 gold apiece.
It's as they say. It's not as they say. I was going to say in for a penny, in for a pound, and that's not it.
That makes no sense.
What's the saying I used to hear? If you look after the pennies, the pounds look after themselves. That was it.
No, because the runoff spare crests of weeks of playing the game are enough money to repair my gear once.
Well, look at that. You'd have broken gear otherwise. Can't believe, but it's so entitled.
So it's that thing, right? You see the whelp crests. I almost don't really need the whelp crests anymore on my paladin. Like, it happens so quickly that for me it's almost just like, just let me trade the whelp crests, whatever. But anyway, Blizzard had often had that perspective. Here, though, they're breaking away from that. This is one of the first times that they have not done that, which is really, really cool. That being said, these are primarily not a player power currency, and it's not like it's not the dilated time thingies, it's the inevitable
encapsulated destinies. Because there's the dilated time capsules, which are traded for the gear, and the encapsulated destinies, which are the ones that guarantee rewards.
Oh, put me in the capsule.
I'm good with nouns sometimes.
That's all from a long time of being a Final Fantasy player.
Oh, man.
Yeah, if you're not good at nouns, you cannot hack it in that series. What's that? Hello. I don't know if it's Mastermind. My special skill set tonight is nouns. But yeah, so the ones that you can get the 402 catch-up gear that can be converted into tier with the creation catalyst, those are not account bound. Paracausal fragments are. You cannot get any gear with the paracausal fragments other than flakes, other than the trinkets. And this is the thing. I feel like if you could just turn flakes into other bits of gear, that there would be some form of tax. But because it's limited to just those trinkets, I think that's why they've opted to go for the no tax. I would say, though, that it feels pretty decent. I think there's also another reason for that, too. You can't... I think it's just for buying things, being in the right armor type.
Yeah, that's the fun thing, where if you want to collect things and you want to collect everything, and if there was no trading, then you'd have to log on a character that's ready for that. Whereas in this case, as long as you have one of every armor type actually existing, you can just send them all the flakes that you need, as opposed to trying to log into them. Now, logging into them, if you've got everything, is more efficient anyway, because you're going to have the drop chances and stuff. But if you literally say you don't want to play your plate class, but you do want the sword for future, or you want the plate gear from the Valhalla stuff, or the the plate warmongers or the plate jingoists, then you'll straight up be like, oh, well, I can just do it on my leather class, my claw class, and send it all over, which I think is really nice.
That's good, yeah.
Especially when they've made it so you can funnel, or you can send, no matter what you do the weekly on, you can send over the commendation with Sword Dormy for the rep, and also the 1,000 flakes from that as well. So there's a lot of like, and I've noticed this with something else. I'll maybe talk about it a little bit later because I know it's in the doc here somewhere. But there's a trend I've noticed of whoever is putting all of this stuff into the game, they are taking the time to make sure that there's, I guess, all of the kind of cracks you can fall through experience-wise are being like looked after and being filled up preemptively. Where there's almost no way when you're doing these time rifts or when you're doing like the next Ramus thing that you go, I fucked it. There's nothing like that. It's always just, oh yeah, you can't make mistakes. As long as you do the content, you'll get the reward or you'll be able to fix it. And I think that's really interesting where like, compared to when, you know, there'd be 1,000 nitpicks about every single thing they've released, the past like patch or two has been, I'd say there's like having a couple of problems. Like the between patches have been like super clean. Maybe it's because they have more time to finish up the between patch stuff, especially the secret stuff that isn't like part of the core mechanic. But it is very interesting that they're like just nailing the small things, which is not something I've ever, well, you know, maybe back in the day, but like maybe for 10 years there, Blizzard, maybe 6 or 7 years, like the WoW team were not good at making sure those cracks weren't there.
The decade of oh dear.
Yeah.
Why did we all start doing YouTube when the decade of oh dear commenced? No, it's all turned around pretty good. So there's that. I'll say one thing. Now, I don't know if I am just. I was about to say huffing crack. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it works that way.
I don't know if it has
I'm actually
crack,
not too
but-
partial to the crack pipe. You know, only on Sundays, of course, for good measure. So it seemed that rewards for this were busted in week 1. And like I got rewards at the very start. I got barely anything after that. I go in here to my first one. The game's like, hey, here's some gear. Hey, here's an albatross. I'm like, oh, fuck, I've geared an albatross. This is incredible. And then, you know, I notice all that stuff from Sword Dormy in the weekly quest is bind on account, which is pretty cool. Not that it mattered. I used it all on that character. But then I went to Bob. Bob gave me
An encapsulated destiny.
an encapsulated destiny, good man Bob, and that was just from a daily, and the daily wasn't marked any different. Now I went the next day, Bob didn't give me one, so I don't know what Bob's at. Maybe the dailies only give you like one of those a week, but anyway, I seemingly saw more people reporting on like getting loot and stuff. That being said, I mean, like, my sample size is so unscientific that, you know, a few people could agree about this and then see all the data that they would need to support it. So I can't really, I cannot in a good conscience say so. But that being said, what is quite nice is you get a new character. What can you do with that character? Immediately start them off with 2 item level 402 trinkets. And it's kind of funny with these new trinkets because at least for quite a lot of specs, they're very, like, middle of the pack. And a lot of them, at least, though, this is just me trying to remember looking at blood mallets like a week ago, and maybe some of these have been tuned. But they didn't seem to be that powerful. That being said, it did kind of make me realize something. I was like, who are these for? If I'm thinking about doing keys, they're actually not for me. Because going around the world, especially because the Charlemagne one... Charlemagne. What? Yeah, the Charlemagne one, like, it's the one that, like, sims the worst. But I'm walking around the world, and I just have a you die button on my mouse now. And it's like, okay, that's an interesting example of how we think about things in a game like World of Warcraft, and how the goopy gamer in me is going to see that and think, ugh, doesn't sim well. Don't want that. And then I get it and I use it in the game. It's like, oh yeah, nice. When I'm going about doing my business, I just have an extra you die button that, you know, makes me particularly bursty. And that feels really satisfying. So it's an interesting little lesson there, especially as we get these trinkets that are perhaps not always intended for, like, you know, super high-end use. But they are still simmed and compared against things that are.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly, I can't remember who it was, but someone in chat earlier was saying they really like the Thunderfin one because they play an Enhancement Shaman. so they're just firing off like extra lightning and extra thunderbolts all day long.
Yeah.
They're like, that is just a cool thing.
It's great in Ret Paladin because you're just like, I'm pumping hard, I've got wings, and you're like, I'm going to hit the more Jesus button. You just go, ah! And, you know, because that one, it does like a super quick combo of like 5 attacks. So your character just, especially if you, because like I've got like the I've got the Jingoist set and the really big blue Ashbringer. So like my character looks like an utter fanatic. Yeah, it was quite fun. It's neat.
I remember on the PTR when I did the time rift the first time, I got Shalamin from the first rift I tried, and it had no cooldown at that point in time.
What?
That was something for the rest of the time rift.
So a button of infinite kill.
Basically, yeah. It did have like an execution time, so it wasn't just like spam it, but it was full on. I just pressed it and pressed it and pressed it and pressed it, and just constantly wrecked stuff.
Well, that's a form of broken I can get behind. That's pretty good.